Good morning, students. Now, my name is, let me give my introduction. My name is Professor Jinesh Shah. Hereby, I am uploading the presentation of or the video of Gujarat University BBS M1 paper, University paper, core compulsory subject 104 code economics, and the 2016 year paper I have just uploaded. Let us go with the first question. State Robbins' definition of economics and discuss the main point of it. So, as per Robbins' definition, economics is the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ants and scarce. Now, this ants and scarce are the most important, means which have alternative uses. So, here four main points have been elaborated as per the definition. First, ants. Ants means unlimited wants. Second means scarcity of resources. Then alternative uses and variations in the intensity of wants or demands. Let us go in deep. Unlimited wants. So, according to Professor Robbins' definition, human wants are unlimited. As we all know that the needs of human, once one need completed, automatically second need generates. So, on satisfaction of one want, another want arises immediately, and this sequence continues forever. Scarce means Robbins' definition stated that through on one side, human needs are unlimited, yet on the other side, the means to satisfy these wants like time, power, money, etc. are also limited. That means resources are limited. Due to this, many of man's needs remain unsatisfied. So, first one was unlimited want, second was scarce means. Third, alternative use of scarce means. In Robbins' view, though the to satisfy man's needs are scarce, yet he has alternative uses. In other words, he can use every resources in various objectives and activities. For example, such a resources like land can be used in many ways, such as it can be used for agricultural or for building a house or to establish a factory, etc. So depends on that. Fourth, variation in the intensity of wants. So Robbins' definition states that the intensity of man's needs is different. Some wants are more intense than the others. Since our means are limited and all the wants cannot be satisfied, definitely all wants of any person can't be satisfied. So for that we have to select some more intense wants from our unlimited wants. Means we have to be selective for providing the needs, for providing the wants. Let us go with the optional question. Question 1a. What is microeconomic? Discuss the scope of microeconomic. Micro means small or narrow. So, as per the definition or meaning, micro means small. Thus, microeconomics only analysis or analyzes individualistic behavior, means individual behavior is been analyzed. It studies an individual consumer producer price of a particular commodity, households, etc. Now, according to Professor K.E. Bulking, microeconomics is the study of particular firm, particular household, individual prices, wages, incomes, individual industries, and particular commodities. Let us go with the scope of microeconomic. Microeconomics, if we talk about the scope, then first is commodity pricing. So, price of individual commodities are determined by market forces of demand and supply. Definitely, the price will be depending on the demand and supply. So, microeconomics makes demand analysis and supply analysis, means individual consumer behavior and individual producers behavior. So, that is what is about the commodity pricing says. After that, second is factor pricing. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These are the major four factors. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So all factors contribute in production process. So they get rewards in the form of either rent, wages, interest, and profit respectively. Microeconomics deals with the determination of such rewards, that is factor prices. So microeconomics is also called as price theory or value theory. Now welfare theory. Microeconomics deals with the optimum allocation of available resources, means whatever the resources are been available, they must get utilized in maximization. It provides answers for what to produce, when to produce, how to produce, and for whom it is to be produced. In short, microeconomics guide is for utilizing scarce resources of economy to maximize public welfare. Let us for the next question 1b. Explain the concept of production possibility curve with the help of diagram. So as we know, in the present day scenario, wants and desires of human beings have become unlimited and resources to fulfill those desires are limited. Therefore, entrepreneurs need to select the most desirable goods that can be produced with available resources and technology. On the other hand, if the resources had been available in unlimited quantities, then some of the resources would have left unutilized. Definitely. An economy has fixed population, resources, techniques of production, and raw materials. Therefore, it is necessary to decide upon the optimum utilization of resources to produce various goods. Production possibility curve provides an overview of the maximum output of a good that can be produced in an economy by using available resources with respect to quantities of other goods produced. So here the concept of production possibility basics have been given. After that, in other words, production possibility curve can be defined as a graph that presents a different combination of quantities of two goods. So here two goods will get compared that can be produced by an economy under the condition of limited available resources. So two conditions. First was two goods and second was of limited available resources. It is also known as production possibility frontier or transformation curve. The goods and resources plotted on the production possibility curves are considered as technical efficient, while the goods and resources that are lying beneath the curve are regarded as inefficient. Let us understand the concept of production possibility curve with the help of the example. Suppose an organization produces two goods A and B. So here in the next slide, the table is given which shows the different combination of A and B produced by an organizer. In table 1, it can be shown that when A has the quantity of 6,000, then B has the B has been produced at all. It is like that. Product B and product A comparison. Then B has not been producer at all. Similarly, when the quantity of B reached 20,000, then the quantity of A is 0. So here if B is this, A will be 0. If A is this, B will be 0. It is like that. So this is because of all the resources are utilized in manufacturing one good. However, these are the extreme cases. In between these cases, there are several points there are where A and B both are manufactured simultaneously. These are this and this point. Now we can plot. So here the diagram has been reflected over here. So in figure 1, the production possibility points G and H are attainable combinations, whereas C and E are unattainable combinations. Production possibility schedules can also be termed as production transferable schedules. So it is also to be known as this. The rate at which a production is transferred into another product by sacrificing the amount of the product for the other is called marginal rate of transformation. Likewise, for an example, if in case of A and B, the amount of B that is sacrificed to produce A is termed a marginal rate of transformation. Due to this transformation, the curve of production possibility is concave in nature. Let us go with the optional question. Explain the meaning and features of free market economy. Free market economy is a type of economy system that is controlled by the market forces of supply and demand, as opposed to government controls that involve price cutting, monopolies. It is different from a regular market. So it is not like a regular market. It is of different market. Let us go with the features of free market economy. First is property rights. So property rights are social institutions that govern the ownership, use and disposals of resources, goods and services. Now there are different types of property which individuals and firms can privately own. First, real property, which includes land, building, durable goods such as plant, capital, equipment, etc. Financial property, which includes shares, bonds, bank deposit money, kept at home, or etc. Intellectual property, which is the latest addition to the list of properties, represents the products of creative efforts, and includes books, written, then audio and video material, then computer program, etc. So it is like that. Let us go with the second feature, freedom of private enterprise. So allied to the property rights is freedom of enterprise, which is another basic feature of a market economy. Freedom of enterprise means that everybody is free to engage in whatever economic activity he pleases. Means he feels to accept that. So here certain freedom of private enterprise will be efficiently worked out. More specifically, freedom of enterprise means that an entrepreneur is free to set up any firm or business unit to produce the goods or make investment in shares, bonds or corporate sector, etc. Next feature, profit and prices, that is incentives and information. So no individual would work and save if adequate incentives are not provided to them. That means similarly the firms will not produce goods and services and bear risk of losing money if sufficient incentives are not given to them. So profits are earned from undertaking the task of producing goods and services and introducing new products and new. Definitely, if the company is not making the production of new products, it is not possible for any company or any organization to sustain in the market for a longer duration of time due to competition. So it is our next concept, competitive market. In ordinary speech, the word market means a place where buyers and sellers meet to buy and sell goods, means to satisfy their own needs. If seller, then to satisfy the monetary needs. If buyer, then to satisfy the consumption needs. In economics, market has a wider meaning and is interpreted to mean any arrangement that enables buyers and sellers to exchange things. They may contact each other through telephone, fax or direct computer link, or nowadays it is also been possible online shopping or etc. So it is like that. Let us go with the second question. Question 2a, explain the law of demand with the diagram. So as far as law of demand is concerned, the law of demand expresses a relationship between the quantity demanded and its price. It may be defined in Marshall's words as the amount demanded increases with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. Means if the price increases, demand decreases. If price decreases, demand increases. That means inverse relationship between them. So here the diagram will also be explained like the same concept. Price increases, demand decreases. Price decreases, demand increases. Now let us go with the assumptions of the law of demand. There is no change in taste and preferences of the consumer. It is the first assumption. The income of the consumer remains the constant. There is no change in customer. The commodity to be used should not confer distinction on the consumer. There should not be any substitutes of the commodity. There should not be any change in the prices of the other product. There should not be any possibility of change in the price of the product being used. There should not be any change in the quality of the product. And last is the habits of the consumer should remain unchanged. So these are the various assumptions. It is true that it is not correct to say that entire assumptions will be applied. But hence the word itself says that it is assumption. So as per the diagram and as per the table, it can be said that if the price reducing, demand increases. It is like that. So the above table shows that the price of, as if I said that inverse relationship has been reflected over here. Now exceptions. Here certain exceptions are also there. First, war. If shortage is featured in the anticipation of war, people may start buying for Likewise, in certain war, it has been possibly done. So, if the person or any member finds the future war situation, then artificial demand will generate it. So, it is exception. Though the price increases, they are going to consume. Depression, during the depression, the prices of commodities are very low, but at the time of depression, the income is the major problem. So, first one war, second one depression. During a depression, the prices of commodities are very low and the demand for this is also low. This is because of the lack of purchasing power with consumer. This is the diagram. Giffen paradox or Giffen goods means inferior qualitative goods. It is nothing but the inferior qualitative goods. So, if a commodity happens to be a necessity of life, like what wheat, and its price goes up, consumers are forced to curtail the consumption of more expensive foods like meat and fish, and wheat being still the cheapest food, they will consume more of it. The Marshallian example is applicable to developed economy. In the case of underdeveloped economy, with the fall in the price of an inferior commodity like means consumers will start consuming more of the superior quality like wheat. As a result, the demand for maize will fall. This is what Marshall called the Giffen paradox, which makes the demand curve to have a positive slope. Demonstration effect. So, if consumers are affected by the principle of conspicuous consumption or demonstration, likewise the advertisement, televisional advertisement or etc., billboard advertisements. So, in that situation, such commodities which confer distinction on the professor when the possessor when their prices rise. On the other hand, with the fall in the price of such articles, their demand falls, as in the case with diamonds. Next is ignorance effect. So, consumers buy more at a higher price under the influence of the ignorance effect, when a commodity may be mistaken for some other commodity due to deceptive packaging, labeling, etc. Next, speculation. Marshall mentions speculation as one of the important exception of the downtrend or downward sloping demand curve. So, due to this also the demand is also been facing inverse situation as compared to the normal one. Necessities of life, likewise necessity goods and products of the life are being concerned. Though its price increases, it will get consumed, but if its price reduces, it does not mean that more and more consumption will be affected. After that, explain the law of diminishing marginal utility in the optional of question 2. So, according to the law of diminishing marginal utility of goods diminishing means declining as an individual consumes more unit of goods. In other words, as a consumer takes more unit of a good, the extra utility or satisfaction that he deserves or derives from an extra unit of the goods goes on falling. Likewise, for an example, let us have the example of the glass of water. If a thirsty person wants water to get consumed, then at the first glass, the person will be having the maximum utility. But after consuming more and more glasses of water, the consumers, whatever the utility has been there, it will get declined. So, it is like that. So, the additional benefit which a person derives from a given increase of the stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in the stock that he already has. Means, like the person has already drunken one glass of water, then after consuming more and more glass of water, the utility will get reduced. It is like that. This law is based upon two important facts. First, while the total wants of the man are virtually unlimited, each single want is satiable. Therefore, as an individual consumes more and more units of goods, intensity of this his want for the goods goes on falling or etc. But it will never be zero. Marginal, this is when marginal utility can be zero, but as far as average utility or total utility, it can never be zero. So, here the diagram table is given: consumption of T, total utility and marginal utility. So, it is like that, you will never find zero. Marginal utility can decline also, but as far as total utility is concerned, it can never be 0. So here also the graphical presentation means in the next slide also the graphical presentation has been given that this is the total utility curve and this is the marginal utility curve, which is kinked in nature and it is U-shaped. It is like that. So it is the explanation of this graphical presentation. Again, graphical presentation says that this downward sloping marginal utility curve has an important implication for consumers' behavior regarding demand for goods. We shall explain how the demand curve is derived from marginal utility curve. The main reason why the demand curve for good slope downwards is the fact of diminishing marginal utility. The significance of the diminishing marginal utility of a good for the theory of demand is that the quantity demanded of a good increases as the price falls and vice versa. Thus, it is because of the diminishing marginal utility that the demand curve slopes downward, definitely. Let us go with this second question. Write a note on increase and decrease in demand. So, here two options, increase and decrease. So, the change in demand means increase in demand and decrease in demand. Change in demand on shift in the demand curve occurs due to change in any other factor that were assumed constant under the law of demand. The change may be either an increase in demand or decrease in demand. It may be increase, it may be decrease. Original market equilibrium is stated at point E when the original demand curve DD and supply curve SS intersect each other. So it is like that. OQ is the equilibrium point and OP is the equilibrium price. OQ, OP. Increase in demand means an increase in demand leads to a rightward shift in demand curve from DD to D1, D1. So it is like that. It is DD, DD1. It is shifted from this to this. So it is known as increase in demand. Now new equilibrium point will become E1, this one. Equilibrium price increases from OP to OP1 and quantity increases from OQ to OQ1. When demand increases to D1, D1, it creates an excess demand at the old equilibrium price of OP. This leads to competition among buyers, which increases the price. So here everyone will just try to make the maximum try to generate the maximum output. This changes continue till the new equilibrium is established at point E1. That is like this one. As there is an increase in demand only, equilibrium price increases from OP to OP1 and equilibrium quantity increases from OQ to OQ1. Now demand decreases. So here decline from DD to D2, D2 and price from E to E2. It is like that and this will become new equilibrium price. When demand increases to D2, D2, it creates an excess supply at the old equilibrium price of OP. This leads to competition among sellers, which reduces the price. Decrease in price leads to increase in demand and fall in supply. These changes continue till the new equilibrium is established at point E2, as if I circled here. Now for effect on equilibrium price and quantity due to increase in income and increase in price of complementary goods. So let us go with the second B alternate question. Write a note on exception of law of demand. So here we have already been gone through the first question in the demand question, like Giffen goods, Veblen goods, price changes, necessity goods, change in income. So these are the exceptions. Giffen goods, as we have already been gone through that, it is having a lesser or inferior quality. Giffen goods is a concept that was introduced by Sir Robert Giffen, and on the surname of that person, the goods have been created as a Giffen good title. These goods are these goods are goods that are inferior in comparison, means as if I explain that the quality of the goods are inferior in nature. So here, as per the law of demand, the price decreases, demand increases. The price increases, demand decreases. Here it won't apply. Though the price of the given goods decreases, does not generate huge amount of increment in demand. It is like that. Veblen goods. Second exception of the law of demand is the concept of Veblen goods. Veblen goods is a concept that is named after the economist Thorstein Veblen, who introduced the theory of conspicuous consumption. According to Veblen, there are certain goods that become more valuable as their price increases. If a product is expensive, then its value and utility are perceived to be more, and hence the demand for that product increases. Then the expectation of price change. In addition to Giffen and Veblen goods, another expectations to the law of demand is the expectation of price change. So here there are times when the price of a product increases and the market conditions are such that the product may get more expensive. In such cases, consumer may buy more of the product though the price is increasing, because they have expectation to have the more increment in the price in future. Necessary goods and services. So if the required goods and services and products are there, though the price of the product has been increasing, the demand will increase. It is like that. Change in income. So sometimes the demand for a product may change according to the change of income. If a household's income increases, they may purchase more products irrespective of the increase in the price, thereby increasing the demand for the product. Similarly, they might postpone buying a product even if its price reduces if their income has reduced. Hence, change in a consumer's income pattern may also be an exception of the law of demand. Next, how the price is determined by demand and supply by the market or in the market. Price is dependent on the interaction between demand and supply components of a market. Demand and supply represents the willingness of consumers and producers to engage in buying and selling. So here the willingness will be important term. An exchange of a product takes place when buyers and sellers can agree upon the price. They agree. This section of the agriculture market in manual explains price in a competitive market when imperfect competition exists, such as with a monopoly or single selling firm. Price outcomes may not follow the same general rules. Definitely. Equilibrium price, if we talk about, when a product exchange occurs, the agreed upon price is called an equilibrium price or a market clearing price. Graphically, this price occurs at the intersection of demand and supply at the present imaging one, that is the one. In image 1, both buyers and sellers are willing to exchange the quantity at Q at the price P. At this point, supply and demand are in balance. Price determination demand equally on demand and supply. So it is like that. That is price, that is quantity to be supplied. It is truly a balance of the market components. To understand why the balance must occur, examine the, let us have the example. At any price below P, the quantity demanded is greater, means if the price reducing, then quantity demand will get increased. The end result is a increase in price to P, where supply and demand are in balance. Similarly, if a price above P were chosen arbitrarily, the market would be in surplus with too much supply relative to demand. So it is the constraint. A market price is not necessarily a fair price. It is nearly an outcome. It does not guarantee total satisfaction. Never. It can never give the guarantee of total satisfaction on the part of buyer and seller. Typically, some assumptions about the behavior of buyers and sellers are made, which add a sense of reason to a market price. For example, buyers are expected to be self-interested, and although they may not have the perfect knowledge, at least they will try to look out their own interest. Meanwhile, sellers are considered to be profit maximization. These assumptions limits their willingness to sell to within a price range, high to low, where they can stay in business. So in that constraint, change in equilibrium price. When either demand or supply shifts, the equilibrium price will also change. The section on understanding supply factor explains why a market competition or market component may move. Here the examples of is been given. Here likewise unusually good weather increase output. When a bumper crop develops supply shift outwards and downward, shown as like this. More product is available over the full range of prices with no immediate change in consumers' willingness to buy crops. There is a movement along the demand curve to a new equilibrium. Consumers will buy more but only at lower price. How much the price must fall to introduce or induce consumers to purchase the greater supply depends upon the elasticity of demand. So whatever the constraint is been there, it depends upon the elasticity of demand. So price falls from P1 to P2 if a bumper crop is produced. From P1 to P2 it is reduced. If the demand curve is in this example was more vertical or more inelastic, the price equality adjustment needed to bring out a new equilibrium between demand and the new supply would be different. To understand how elasticity of demand affects the size of adjustment in price and quantities, when supply shifts, try drawing the demand curve with a slope more vertical than that depicted in image 2. Then compare the size of price quantity, so it will be more advantageous and more feasible to you. Now this is the supply curve through which it will be compared price, quantity and equilibrium from this to this. With no immediate change in supply, the effect on price comes from a movement along the supply curve. So it is as if I explained. When demand shifts from D1 to D2, D1 to D2, it is like that. Price stability. Two forces contribute the price or the size of the price change, the amount of the shift and the elasticity of demand or supply. For example, a large shift of the supply curve can have a relatively small effect on price. If the corresponding demand curve is elastic, that would show up in example 1 as if I explained, if the demand curve is drawn flatter or more elastic in nature. Here price level is also been given, that the two example through which the price level has been compared here. Let us go with the question 3 alternate 1. Discuss the law of supply in detail. So as per the definition, in the words of Dulé, the law of supply states that other things being equal, the higher the price, the greater the quantity supplied, or the lower the price, the smaller the quantity of supply, means here the positive impact. So here it has been given that price, supply, price increases, supply increases. So here it is having positive impact. Again, it is graphical impact of this table. Likewise, let us go with the features of perfect competition. So large number of buyers and sellers, homogeneous product, free entry and exist, perfect knowledge, perfect mobility, absence of transport cost, absence of government and or artificial restriction. So it is like that. First of all, large number of buyers and sellers, always perfect competition you will be finding the huge number of the quantitative number of buyers and suppliers. Definitely it will be there. Homogeneous product means the second condition in the perfect market is that the commodity offered should be homogeneous and identical in all respect. Means the identical should be from the buyer's angle. The buyer should feel that the products offered by different sellers are the same in quantity, size, taste, etc. So more and more similarity in product. It is like that, similarity in product. Free entry and exist condition means anyone can enter into the market and anyone can exist from the market, no condition. The perfect knowledge on the part of buyers and sellers, they must have the perfect information, the perfect knowledge of the product and services. Perfect mobility. Mobility means circulation of factors of production. The existence of perfect competitions depends on perfect mobility of factors of production. The factors should be free to move from one use to another easily depending on the remuneration they get. Absence of transport cost. In a perfectly competitive market, it is assumed that there is no transportation cost. Absence of government or artificial restrictions. Definitely. Lastly, it is assumed that there is no restriction from any quarters, hindering the smooth functioning of perfect competition. Means no restriction from any other party or persons or government should be provided. In option to that, explain the characteristics of monopolistic competition. So it is a type of competitive between it is the type of competition between the other in the industry. This means more than one company is selling in a similar product and competition in the market. Everyone offers a similar product, but that product can't be completely substituted. In other words, while other companies may sell God's milk soap, none of them are exactly like Betty's soap because they do not contain all of the exact same ingredients. All companies can either to enter or leave an industry when they want. Means here no rules and regulations for entry and exit is been there. Every company makes their own decision about their products. Means here no restriction over the decision of the product is been there. There is product differentiation. Product differentiation means that the companies try to distinguish or differentiate their products from others in the market so that their product is more entering or enticing to it can attract the customers. So there are two different types of product differentiation. First is physical differentiation, like size, packaging, etc. Second is marketing differentiation, means how the company has been marketing. First, physical differentiation. Second, marketing differentiation. Let us go with the question 4. Marginal productivity theory with the help of diagram. So according to this theory, the price of a factor tends to equal the value of the marginal product. Thus, rent is equal to the value of the marginal product of land. Wages are equal to the valuable marginal product of labor, and so on. Here, marginal cost will become in neoclassical economists have applied the same principle of profit maximization, means marginal cost will become marginal revenue. Let us have the assumption of the theory. Perfect competition is in both product and factor markets. Operation of the law of diminishing return, homogeneity and divisibility of the factor, operation of the law of substitutions, profit maximization, full employment of factors, exhaustion of the total product. The theory is also based on the key certain concepts. Likewise, MPP means marginal physical product. VMP, it induce value of the marginal product. MRP means marginal revenue product. It is not maximum retail price. Yeah? Now, what are the criticisms? So, in determination of marginal product, firstly, main product is a joint product or produced by all the factors jointly. Hence, the marginal product of the particular factor cannot be separately. So, it can't be separated. Unrealistic. It is also shown that the employment of one additional unit of a factor may cause an improvement in the whole of the organization, which is unreal. Then, market imperfection. The theory assumes that the existence of perfect competition, which is rarely found in the real world. Neither of the firm or industry will be finding the perfect competitive market. Full employment, it is also not possible. Difficulties of factor substitutions. The Nobel economist denies the possibility of free substitution on the factors, always owing to the technical conditions of production. So it is also been there. Emphasis on the demand side only. No comparative with the employer's side or etc. will be taken into consideration. Inhuman theory. Finally, the theory is often described as inhuman, as it treats human and non-human factors in the same way, which is not possible. Let us have the difference between money wages and real wages. So as far as real wages, compensation that considers inflation rate. Money wages, payment of labor done with no market condition. Real wages generates inflation, money wages generates government regulations. As per the formula, real wages equals to new CPI upon old CPI. There won't be any formula likewise of money wages. Real wages determines and maintain purchasing power. Money wages compensate for work done. Real wages consideration of different past periods, and money wages considers only present period. Factors affecting real wages: nature of job, future aspects, possibility of extra earning, mode of payment, hours of work means for how many hours the working is been done, other facilities, price level, working conditions, social status, cost of training, travel expense, timely payment. So these are the different factors which will give the direct impact. What does the interest mean? Last long question, question 4b alternate. What does the interest mean? What are the constituents of gross interest? Interest is the change of the privilege of borrowing money, typically expressed as annual percentage rate. Now, constituents, if we talk about, then it is pure interest, insurance, wages of management, inconvenience is written. These are the constituents. Or explain the innovation theory of profit in detail. So this is the basic introduction, and this is the descriptive, like how the profit in detail will be. Profit is a necessary reward for inducing individual to undertake the risk associated with, means the person who has been associated with the risk, in accordance with that amount of risk, the amount of profit will be distributed and decided. Innovation refers to a number of things such as development of discovery of new markets or new products, improve consumers, etc. It will be taken into consideration. The success of Federal Express in providing overnight delivery of to a segment to the communication market, it also be taken into consideration. Thus, the key ingredient to the innovation theory of profit is a dynamic and ever-changing nature of demand and supports. Various types of risk are associated. Definitely, if the more the risk, the more the chances of occurring profit. If the lesser the risk, the lesser the chances of occurring the profit. But no one can calculate the numerical profitability that a firm or a group of firm will make profit or loss in future. Means future expected profit can be estimated, but actual amount of profit can't be generated. So here, of course, it emphasizes the role of profit as a necessary incentive for innovation. Definitely, if the firm is profit making, then and only then it will be possible, so that to have the generation of the activities of innovation for the product development or service development. Let us go with the objective question. Last question. Likewise, economics problem arises due to dash of resources. It is nothing but the scarcity of resources. Sunlight is the example of free goods. In the free market economy, all economic decisions are solved by price mechanism. Public ownership of resources is a feature of mixed economy. Given goods are the exception of the law of demand. The law of diminishing marginal utility is given by Marshall. Normal demand curve slopes downward. When more is supplied at the same price, here is increase in supply. In monopoly, market substitutes are not available. In oligopoly, demand curve is kinky. Reward of factor depends upon its marginal productivity. Interest is a contractual income. Profit is a uncertain income. Quasi-rent arises in the long period. It is wrong. So that's all. All the best to entire students. Thank you.